Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to the podcast. I'm really delighted about today's guest, Joseph Woodbury, and he is founder and CEO of neighbor.com. It's a peer-to-peer app that allows individuals and users to connect with each other and share their storage spaces. So think about, Airbnb or Uber. So Joseph is in the space for your storage. So I'm really happy to have him on to talk about neighbor.com and really excited about the conversation. So Joseph, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, briefly introduce yourself and we'll dive into the questions.
Sure, yeah. So as you mentioned, founder and CEO of neighbor.com, we've built a nationwide storage and parking marketplace. And it's really a passive income company. We help individuals earn passive income from their property, whether that's renting it out to store your neighbor's boat on the side of your home, or maybe you have a large plot of land and we help you turn it into storage and generate $50,000-$60,000 a year from that land. Anything in between, we're helping people generate income in every city in the country now.
Interesting. And so kind of talk about the how long you've been in business, how you got the idea, what sort of people get on the neighbor.com and rent out your storage spaces, etc.
Yeah, so we started, actually, the idea came from my co-founder, Preston, and he and his wife needed a storage unit because they were traveling out of the country for about 4 months. They had just gotten married. They needed a place to put their items, and they looked around for a storage facility, and they just couldn't find one with any openings. And the one they did find was a 30-minute drive away and was going to charge them hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month. And so he said, there's no way I'm doing this. He started calling around to friends and found a friend that was willing to allow him to store his items in his garage. Fast forward 4 months, he gets back from his international trip, and he goes to pick his items up, and he has the thought, this was such a better experience. Like, I felt so much more peace of mind knowing my items were in a nice, clean garage in a neighborhood I trusted. Plus, I saved a ton of money. Why doesn't everyone do this? There's got to be empty space in every neighborhood in the country. Why hasn't someone built a directory or a marketplace or a website where you could go find what's available around you? So he approached me about the idea, and we've been working on it ever since, and it's really resonated with people. It turned out that a lot of people have the same problem that Preston was having, and it's this great passive income stream for all those people that are able to rent out their space now.
Yeah. Interesting. And it looks like you founded in 2017, which you've been in business for 8 years. Quick question for you is, before we talk about I'm really curious. I love these startup beginnings. Who gets on the neighbor? Is it high income, or is it just kind of like people like Airbnb and Uber? They're just looking for a quick, fast, efficient, affordable, safe place to transact and do their business.
So you'd be surprised at the variety that we see. So you have everything from an individual like me. I have a home, and on the side of my home I have an RV pad that I don't use because I don't own an RV, and I rent that out on neighbor.com, and an individual stores his camper trailer on the side of my house. I get asked by my neighbors all the time if I own a camper trailer, and I tell them no, it's just storing, but it pays my utilities every single month. So, an individual like me might earn $2,000 or $3,000 a year. But then we also get these individuals that own property. Maybe they own 10 rental properties, or maybe they own a large plot of land. And those are individuals that are going to earn, $10, $20, $30, $50, $60,000 a year on our platform. We even have large businesses. So we work with some of the largest property owners in the country. These are 10 or $20 billion companies that own properties, hundreds of properties across the country. And we work with them. Some of those owners earn seven figures in passive income through our platform. So we work with everything, any sort of space, whether it's the smallest, shed or the largest office building, we can work with it to rent it out for storage and parking.
Fascinating. So then, I really like this. Quick, so when you were talk about some of the kind of the issues with scalability, because obviously it's a platform and it's a marketplace. Buyer and sellers looking for space or parking. How do you what in the early stages, because I remember like Airbnb and Uber, you had first, like, it's the proof of concept work, but then once you got like tons of people using, you had all sorts of had great experiences, then you also had downright dangerous experiences, illegal experiences. How do you what are the challenges that you had with neighbor.com in that area?
Yeah. So what's interesting about our marketplace that's different from some of the marketplaces that came before us, like the Ubers and the Airbnb, is how hyper local this is. When you're renting on our platform, you're typically renting from someone in your neighborhood or in your community, very close by. If I'm going on Airbnb or Uber, typically I'm getting an Airbnb somewhere very far away from where I live, right? I live in Salt Lake City. Maybe I get an Airbnb in San Francisco or New York when I travel there. Same with an Uber. I need an Uber to get from the airport to my hotel, so I get an Uber in another city. And so there's really no kind of social cohesion or value there. The nice thing about those platforms is they're a little easier to build because you can just go everywhere and you don't have to build up hyperlocal density. For us, Neighbor, we had to go community by community. So we started in Utah and then we branched out to California and Florida, and we had to build up renters and hosts in every single community. Well, now that we're at scale, we have people actively renting space in basically every city in the country. We're the only storage operator in the world that's in all 50 states. But the advantage, so that's the con, is that it's a little more tedious to build and create these communities because they are so hyperlocal. The advantage, though, is that you don't deal with a lot of the concerns that you deal with on Airbnb or Uber, where it's someone that is coming in from out of city and they have no regard for your property. This is often someone in your community, so there's a lot of social value there of them being close by. They're not staying for 2 days or a 15-minute Uber drive. They're staying for 6, 12, 24, 36 or more months. So it's a long-term relationship where you're really able to develop trust between the two users. So I really like that. That's why we're called Neighbor, right? Because you're storing with a neighbor. It's really a valuable community that way.
Interesting. The other question that comes to my mind is, especially like Airbnb, it's got like $1 million host guarantee, and there's added protections to help shield both the host and the guest. How do you ensure, like, for example, somebody parks on your place and or damages your stall or your property, or even like a host is illegally listing a parking spot that's not theirs, and how do you resolve those types of issues?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So we have the exact same, a very similar policy to Airbnb. We have a $1 million host guarantee. That as a host, it protects your liability, and that's in all 50 states. In addition to that, we're the only marketplace that I'm aware of that really protects both sides. So we don't just have a $1 million guarantee, but our renters can purchase up to a $50,000 property protection plan that protects their items while they're in the space. I don't know of any other storage company in the country that offers up to $50,000 in item protection. And then finally, we have, a large customer support and trust and safety teams that are easy to call into for any of our users that need support that way. We've created on-platform messaging systems so that hosts and renters can message each other across the platform in a secure way. Those messages are always recorded so that we can always assist them if they ever need assistance. We actually help through the full process, so not just moving them in, but if you never ever need help moving a renter out of the space, we can step in and facilitate that process as well. So we just try to be the full service solution so that you can run a business without having to run a business. A stat is, I think our average host spends 16 minutes a month on Neighbor, and yet they're earning thousands or tens of thousands of dollars a year. You think of other platforms, Uber, in order to earn any money, you have to put time in, right? It's time in, money out, or DoorDash or Instacart. It's a job. Even Airbnb, someone is staying 2 days and then they move out and you have to get another customer. So constant customer turnover, and you got to clean up after them. And people hire management companies to manage their Airbnbs. Neighbor is the first passive income platform where you can spend 16 minutes a month and still earn this income. I don't think I've spent on my personal, that's just our average across the platform. I spend 15 minutes maybe every 4 or 5 months if I have to communicate with my renter, but most months I don't spend any time on Neighbor. It just shows up in my bank account every single month because the camper trailer just sits there and does nothing. I don't have to do anything. He doesn't have to do anything. I just earn money for nothing, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the highest margin businesses are, I was thinking to myself, there are parking garages, because all you need is the facility and, in out and taking the payment and kind of signs, say, watch your belongings, we're not liable. We really don't need any human physical staff. The next question I have for you is, during the, as Airbnb and Uber and these kind of platform started to mature, they hit scale, the regulators started going after them. They're like, oh, you can't operate in our city. And they tried to shut down a lot of the businesses and, try to make it difficult. Are you at that point, or, how are you thinking ahead if kind of like if, the city or, whoever the government says, oh, you can't do that. You need permits, it's got to wait 5 years, etc. How are you thinking about that?
Yeah, I think this represents another big advantage to our business model. We're definitely at that, geographic size and scale where, when Airbnb really started getting looked at by regulators. But there's a couple of key differences. Probably the primary thing that regulators looked at and continue to look at Airbnb for is their displacement of renters in that city. So a lot of cities, they think Airbnb drives the cost of living up and it displaces residents with, tourists essentially. And so they don't like that. They think it creates unaffordable housing. But Neighbor doesn't do that. Like, we don't displace anyone. We just work with space that was sitting there totally empty that no one can live in anyway. We're not displacing living space. And so cities don't really care if Neighbor operates in their cities, because the only thing we do is like help the residents pay their mortgage a little better or pay their rent a little better by monetizing space that was previously unmonetizable. The only real regulation in our space, which again, there's a lot more when you're dealing with hospitality or transportation. If you're transporting a person in a vehicle, you think of all that could go wrong. Like with Uber, it's very dangerous, really. I'm like shocked we do Uber. I love Uber. I use it, engage with it, but like it's crazy that we get in a car with a total stranger. There's a lot of liability there, and therefore a lot of regulation. Or sleeping in someone's house, same. But when you're storing your Christmas decorations in someone else's garage or parking your boat on the side of someone else's house, there's just so much less hazard, and therefore a lot less regulation. So it's fairly regulation free, except for the one area being how you move items out of the space. So if someone stops paying, you can't just like dispose of those items. Each state regulates how you get those items out of the space. And that's actually where Neighbor provides a huge benefit to our users, is that we're compliant with those codes and regulations in all 50 states. And so if, for whatever reason we need to, remove those, we know how to do that, and we can do that in a timely manner for you and maintain compliance. So we really are like so advantaged being in the storage and parking space and not in the transportation or hospitality space.
Interesting. Another question I have for you is these other platforms now they're essentially they're software technology platforms, and artificial intelligence is a huge component, kind of matching both ends, or kind of screening, automation, delegation, elimination. How are you using AI, or how are you thinking about AI when moving forward with Neighbor?
Like every business, we're looking to leverage AI to make the platform as successful as possible. I actually love that our business is physical in nature. We're not a pure software play. Like, we are connecting people in the real world. We're connecting a physical space to a physical person, and that will never go away. At the same time, it's not new for us. We've long used machine learning models in our algorithm to help surface the best results to users, so that when you're searching for a storage space and you tell us what you're trying to store, we can provide you with the space that's most likely to fit your needs based on all the historical searches that we've seen across the site. So we do interesting things there. We've also begun using it to help you create your listing and populate certain things on your listing. So lots of applications and use case, really to just like make your life easier when you're signing up as a user, and to help you show up better. But at the end of the day, we'll always be a physical company.
Yeah. Um, I know we have around 5-6 minutes left. Talking about funding for Neighbor. A lot of the early stage startups, they either bootstrap, or family, or and eventually raising VC, and going public. How have you funded it? Is it bootstrapped? Or are you taking angel venture? And where you see Neighbor, is it going to be the next IPO in this marketplace? Talk about that.
Yeah, so we're venture capital funded. We've raised, I think, over $75 million to date from Silicon Valley investors like Andreessen Horowitz and Fifth Wall and others. We've also brought on angel investors like the CEOs of marketplace experts, like the CEOs of DoorDash and Uber, and StockX and other marketplaces have invested into Neighbor, and we rely on their insights to help guide us forward. So yeah, it's a venture capital funded business. The goal is to eventually take this public as a public company. But other than that, it's no different than any other business. We have to create a product of value that customers love and share and rate highly, and it makes a difference in their lives, whether that's making money for the host or providing really affordable, cheap, close storage to the renter. That every company's got the same task. Venture capital is really just an accelerant to help fund bigger ideas that may require capital at the beginning, with a more extended payoff.
Interesting. And if you don't mind me asking, these venture capital rounds, is it series probably is it series B, C? Or if you can share that information.
We're a Series B stage company. Our last round was a Series B round.
Interesting. The other question is, if the people listening, they're like, oh, I have a unused parking spot. I love to rent it out. What are your fees? Like Airbnb takes 3% from hosts, or Uber, if I don't know but they take a cut of every transaction. How do you what are your fees?
Yeah, so we follow a similar model where it's a percentage of the essentially when you're signing up as a host, you tell us how much you'd like to make on the space, and then we tack on a service fee to the renter, and that's how we make money. And that service fee changes based on the size of the transaction. So it's a
Mhm,
higher percentage for smaller transactions. So if
mhm,
it's $10 a month, then our percentage take of that is going to be higher. If it's $1,000 a month, our percentage take of that is going to be lower, just to ensure that we're making some amount, kind of regardless of the size of the transaction. So it's just a sliding scale percentage, just like all the other marketplaces.
yeah, interesting. Very interesting, and I really enjoyed talking with you, and congratulations on the success of Neighbor. If people are interested in signing up, either renting or hosting, or even investing, how can they connect with you and contact you?
Yeah, so we've tried to make it as easy as possible. You just go to neighbor.com, and you can, there's a big search bar. You can search if you're looking for space to store items like a vehicle or boxes. And then up in the top right, there's a place to list your space, or you can go to neighbor.com/host to find the flow to list your space. We're also on the app stores, so the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. If you just search Neighbor, or even something like RV storage or something like that, we're going to show up number one.
Yeah.
So we've tried to make it as easy as possible for the user.
Yeah, really cool. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I know there's several other questions, but we may have you on a future. A lot of guests are doing webinars, and thanks so much. I really enjoyed this conversation, and keep up the great work.
Great. Thanks so much for having me on.